What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Nomadcast Experience. We explore the intersections of sneakers, culture, and history. I'm your host, Mr. Anderson. And on today's episode, we're diving into an era that shaped modern culture as we know it. How hip-hop, sneakers, and the NBA are connected. From the courts to the streets, this story spans generations and still influences style, music, and sports today. Whether you're reliving the glory days or learning from the first time, you're in for a ride. Welcome back. Now, sneaker culture was born on the hardwood, but in the 1980s, it exploded onto the streets. Brands like Nike, Adidas, and Converse went from performance shoes to status symbols. In 1986, Run DMC dropped My Adidas, and suddenly, sneakers were more than just for athletes. They were for everyone. Look at this iconic moment. Run DMC standing on stage with thousands of fans, all holding their Adidas up in the air. This was a cultural shift. Sneakers weren't just about sports anymore, they were about identity. Whether you were rocking the classic shell toes or basketball sneakers, your shoes told a story. The streets embraced the look, and hip-hop made it global. By the late 1980s, hip-hop and the NBA fully embraced sneakers as part of their identity. Players like Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and Michael Jordan weren't just athletes, they were icons. And their shoes, cultural game changers. The Air Jordan 1 made its debut, and suddenly, everyone wanted a piece of that magic. Here's Magic Johnson and Larry Bird in their prime. These guys weren't just winning championships, they were defining style. Then, of course, came his airness. Michael Jordan redefined the game, and his sneakers, they became a movement. The Air Jordan 1 was banned by the NBA, but that only made it more desirable. People wanted what the league couldn't control. It wasn't just about the game, it was about style. NBA players were adopting hip-hop swagger, and hip-hop artists were taking their cues from the NBA. Jerseys, sneakers, baggy pants. These were no longer just sports gear, they were streetwear. Allen Iverson took this to another level with his cornrows, tattoos, and unapologetic street style, which was echoed in his signature shoes. Allen Iverson was a cultural phenomenon, both on and off the court. Look at how he brought a street style to the NBA, redefining what an athlete looked like. Cornrows, tattoos, and that signature crossover. It was more than basketball. It was a statement. Hip-hop and basketball became mirrors of each other, feeding off the same energy, the same attitude. And Iverson's sneakers, a reflection of that era's rebellious spirit. There was a time when music, fashion, and identity collided with raw energy. The 1980s and the 1990s birthed more than just sounds. They birthed a movement rooted deep into the streets, cultivated into the studios, and spread across the courts and corners of the world. Hip-hop wasn't just about what you heard, it was about what you saw and what you wore. Sneakers became more than just footwear, they became a statement. From the soles that danced across city pavements to the tongues that poked out from beneath baggy jeans. Kicks told their own stories. Sneakers told their own stories. A fresh pair wasn't just a purchase, it was a rite of passage. And the album covers for their era, they painted the mood. They captured the rhythm in the streets, reflecting the hunger, the hustle, and the dream. Those covers wasn't just snapshots, they were visual soundtracks. Behind the gold chains, the oversized jackets, and the unmistakable swagger, there was a connection. The artist, the culture, the shoes, it all came together seamlessly. It was the era of street kings. The courts echoed with the thump of basketballs, while block parties filled the air with beats, each step laced with fresh kicks. Nikes, Adidas, Reebok. They were more than brands. They were symbols of status, creativity, and rebellion. Walking down the street in your favorite pair was like carrying a piece of that culture with you. Every sneaker release became an event. Lines outside stores, kids saving up. The anticipation of being the first to lace them up and walk out like you owned the block. They weren't just shoes, they were part of the narrative. The same way the lyrics reflected the streets, the sneakers reflected the spirit of the movement. It was never just about one thing. It was about how the beats, the fashion, and the kicks intertwined, tethered by the collective energy of a generation that refused to be ignored. The shoes on your feet, the cover of the album in your hands, the sound in your ears. It was all part of the same story. And even today, when we look back, it's not just nostalgia. It's a reminder of a time when every detail, every thread, every beat was woven into something bigger. A culture that didn't just live, it thrived. The 1980s and the 1990s set the stage for today's sneaker culture. Retro Jordans, vintage streetwear. These things are more than just nostalgia. They're currency in the culture today. The influence of hip hop and the NBA is undeniable and is still growing. Check out how sneaker culture has evolved. We're seeing younger generations wearing retro Jordans, streetwear conventions packed with enthusiasts, and today's NBA stars carrying on the tradition. Sneakers aren't just footwear, they're an expression of culture, a link between the past and the present. From Michael Jordan to LeBron James, the connection remains strong. From the courts to the streets, hip-hop and the NBA will forever be linked. Whether you live through it or just learning about it, the influence is all around us. Thanks for joining me on this journey through time, talking about hip-hop, sneakers, and the NBA, how they all tethered together, how they all nested together, and as a collective, how they all symbolize as the culture together. This is the Nomadcast Experience. Until we meet again,